Good morning, beautiful people, and welcome to my first lesson of Java programming. I've been wanting to do a tutorial like this for a while, and a lot of you guys have asked me to do a programming series. So I've decided to try it out, and if you guys really like it, then I may choose to continue the series. I plan for these videos to be really short and concise and explained in a way that anybody, including an absolute beginner, may understand it. So for today, the first lesson is just going to be a Java setup and our first line of code. What materials do we need to do to get started, and what are going to be the first steps to get into this programming language. Now, the first thing to get into Java is get an IDE, or an integrated development environment. What an IDE does is basically it's the tools you need to program. In order to actually start writing code, you write that in an IDE that runs it for you. In order to do that, just go to Google and look for Visual Studio Code for Java. Once it loads, it should be the first link, this one, Java and Visual Studio Code. This is from the official Visual Studio Code website, which is an IDE made by Microsoft, so you guys can have the confidence that this is no virus or it's nothing sketchy out there in the internet. It's actually a reliable source. And then you're gonna get the installer that corresponds with your system. If you have a Windows computer, then go ahead and click the first one, and if you have a Mac, you go ahead and do the second one. The installation process is basically the same. You just click on it and wait for the file to finish loading, and then you just open it after the 10 minutes of download and just follow the steps of installation. It should be really simple. Once you have installed it, you're gonna get access to the Visual Studio Code. Since I already have it downloaded, I'm just gonna go ahead and open it. And once it loads, my screen is gonna look similar to yours. It's just going to be the standard like welcome screen. We don't really need this, so we're just gonna go ahead and get rid of that. And once we get rid of that, we're gonna have an empty screen. Now here in the left, there's a lot of different icons that do a lot of different things. This right here is the extension. Sometimes if you want specific extensions or specific let's say additions to better customize your IDE, then you can go ahead and just search it. But thanks to the Java installer, you might notice that your Visual Studio Code already comes with a couple of Java extensions because it was added automatically through that installer. So in that case, we don't need to do anything here. But if you want to go ahead and explore any other extensions you might like, go ahead, and I encourage you to do so. But what we're gonna go and do is go to the Explorer. This is where we're actually gonna be working with our files. We're gonna go ahead and open a new folder, and we're just gonna open the folder where we're gonna keep all of our documents, let's say, so all of our programming files. I'm gonna go ahead and go on Java Programs and make a new folder. It's gonna be YouTube Lessons. And you can do this as well. You just have to make a folder and keep it wherever you want. I just have mine a little bit different because I want to keep things organized, but it doesn't really matter where you put your folder. And again, we get the welcome screen. We don't need this. We can just go ahead and close that out. Now, when you have the YouTube lessons, this right here is where all of your different files or Java codes are going to appear. So since we don't have no Java code yet, we're gonna do a new file. And we're going to call this main.java. And now we have our first Java file. Now the extension, this Java overview might show up. You can just go ahead and close that. This .java that comes after the name is, let's say, the file type. So if it said .py, main.py, then it would be a Python file. But since we want the Java file, we will write main.java. Now you get an empty file. The first thing we have to do is go ahead and write the skeleton, right? So it's going to be public class main. I'm going to go deeper into explaining all of this later on, so you guys don't really have to understand the skeleton. Just go ahead and copy this into your file for now, and then in a later lesson I will explain what all of that means. Public class main, public static void main strings args. And now you have the skeleton. This little chunk of code is what every main Java class or program needs to function. You don't have to memorize this, and most people won't expect you to memorize this. It's just like the standard formatting of your file. Every file of your Java program is going to have this skeleton, and you don't have to memorize it. You can always just Google it. I had to Google it prior to this lesson because honestly nobody has the time to memorize it, but it's something pretty simple. And whatever you put inside this public static void is what's going to be executable, or what's going to be run in the program. Now we're going to do the first line of code, which is a simple hello world program. Now it's a sort of rite of passage in the computer science community that your first program to be a hello world, which is just a way to print into the screen the words hello world. So it's going to be System.out.println parentheses, and then always make sure to end your line with semicolon, and then inside write hello world. If you go ahead and run this right here in the terminal, it's going to show up hello world. If you have managed to do this, you have successfully written your first line of code and finished your first Java programming file, your programming code. This was the first lesson of my Programming Java series. Thanks for watching and happy programming.